What's going on, my great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox. It's your guy, Johnny Main. Welcome to the Week 16 The Fantasy Football Show. The props, picks, best picks, starts and sits show. We got an incredible show for you guys. It's really for our season-long people. It's that time of the year where we're looking for everything to go right, or it's not.
Yeah.
We got some games that are on paper, probably for betting purposes, not the sexiest, but for us fantasy people, kind of is the big one.
Yeah.
You got the game might look like a shit for stink game, but there could be some fantasy gold in that game.
Yes, sir.
Without further ado, we're going to do a game-by-game breakdown. We'll answer any questions that come in the chat in a timely manner as well. We're taking anything question-wise when it comes to your start-sits predicaments, when it comes to your DFS lineups today, and any betting information you guys need as well. Today, we got it for you. So, without further ado, speaking of a game where it could go really sideways, we got the 12-2 Detroit Lions, who are 6.5 favorite on the road going into Chicago. The Bears are 4-10 on the year. The over right now is 47.5. Some context for this game. When it comes to injuries, I know the Detroit Lions are a bit beat up. No David Montgomery. For potentially, hopefully he's back for their playoff run. But he tore his MCL. And that's that outside lateral tendon of your knee. So it's one
Dr.
of those.
Nick.
Like,
go ahead, Dr. Nick. Go ahead.
I know a little bit about a few things.
All right, Doc.
But it's somewhere where, again, like, it's not the worst knee injury you could have experienced, but at the same time, you don't want to rush back for something just to do so. But my time frame on that, if he were to come back, they'd have to probably make the conference final. I think I was thinking semis, but they're probably the conference final for him to probably be back, and then the Super Bowl if they get there. So somewhat of a long shot. We know for fantasy purposes he's out. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get all the workload he can get today. There's talk about Craig Reynolds today as well. So I mean, there's a lot for fantasy purpose wise we're digging into. We got DJ Moore on the other side for the Bears. Keelan Allen, Caleb Williams, if you have him, if you're starting and sitting him in a tough spot for QBs this week. So there's a lot to like in this game. The spread line, I think, for me is pretty on point. I think Detroit could easily cover this, but also, again, there's all these injuries now, potentially their offensive line now too coming into this game. And looking at things, there's 7 people are questionable right now for their injury reports. When it comes to their guys, we know Brian Branch is on the defense side is one of them, and then Graham Glasnow, who's been their star guard, is also questionable coming into this game. We know obviously Doc Montgomery's out. We know one of their linebackers, Reese Maben, he's out today. Another a few people they're cut on IR, but overall, just looking at the board for their injuries, it's just not looking the best. I mean, other side, Jalen Johnson, which is a big one, is questionable coming into this game. We got to find out if he's playing for, that's the best corner for the Chicago side. But yeah, I mean, look, Lions, they're 12-2 for a reason. It was a little shocking that they were a team that was looking like that they couldn't really do anything much defensively. Yeah, and then they even had more injuries now. So I just think the line is fair. I think I would still take the Lions to cover this line on the road. But again, remember, Detroit is an indoor dome team, and now they're going to be playing in the outdoors. So I'm guessing Dan Campbell is going to have his strategic cap on when it comes to just like, look, they want to really run the football when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs, when it comes to Craig Reynolds. They really run the football. And then they have to really want to execute on play action. That's been the bread and butter for them all year. So I kind of expect them to do the same thing. And especially if Jalen Johnson's out, it'd be a long day for the Bears defense in general. theirs overall. They're allowing for the last 6 weeks. They've been a top 5 matchup for running backs. So in this situation, like, yeah, give me the Lions. I think they're going to be able to keep their pulse on this game throughout. And I know these guys played on Thanksgiving, but I will say that just the Lions did let up a little bit in this matchup on Thanksgiving because the Bears kind of came back. I think they either scored. I don't think they scored any points in that first half, or they had a field goal or something, and then all of a sudden Caleb Williams rallied these guys back. And then that's where the game, where infamously they didn't call a timeout for the final. There was like 25 seconds left in that game, and they didn't call their last timeout, and then just everything went haywire. So, Johnny, what do you say about this game overall? And any fantasy implications relying on this game? Any DFS related information? What you got there?
Definitely. I think this game could definitely go either way. I think I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears found a way to cover. I think just like, you mentioned all the injuries for the Detroit Lions that they have. And like the fact that the Bears had these guys on the ropes on Thanksgiving Day, I think says a lot. Bears have been in a lot of close games this year, like as well, man. You know what I mean? So, and then I think one of the other elements of this game as well that you mentioned is Detroit being a dome team. If you look at Jameson Williams, one of the X factors for the Detroit Lions, you look at his road and home splits, they're significantly different. He plays much better at home than he does on the road. So I think that's something else to factor in as well when you're looking at the Detroit side of things. And then like when we talk about like the DFS side of things, like everybody and their mom today is playing Jahmyr Gibbs. And I've said it a million times, like, in these situations, I get really, really shaky about when a player gets to like that 30+% owned. And I'm playing a couple of different tournaments. I'm playing a couple single entries as I normally do on DraftKings, but I'm playing primarily today on FanDuel because, the takedown on Monday night of last week. So I like in one tournament, like I just pretty much locked him in. And in the other tournament, I went very like just with the field. Obviously, I'm not gonna play Jahmyr Gibbs in a DFS GPP setting. But like, man, like it just there's a way to get different right in that same price range, especially on FanDuel and even like on DraftKings as well. There's definitely a way to get different, which we'll talk about a little bit later on from a price standpoint in one of the 1:00 games. But just for me, man, like overall, like obviously Jahmyr Gibbs is in play. And so is the Chicago Bears wide receiver. Keenan Allen had a really good game last time these guys played. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I hit on his individual prop that game. I think it was like 59 or 60 yards. But a lot of people are playing DJ Moore on DraftKings, and a ton of people are playing him on FanDuel. So, like for me, I'm messing with the Chicago Bears wide receivers for sure. Like the weather is going to be what it's going to be. It's going to be a cold Chicago day. So it's going to be interesting to see, man. And I think like, I don't want to be lazy and just say, oh, because like the Lions are, outside now that like, we need all bets are off like for them offensively. Cause I think like they can play in any type of conditions,
Absolutely
you know what I mean? But I do think I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not messing with this game on the spread, but I absolutely would not be shocked if the Bears found a way to kind of hang around this game due to all the injuries and due to what happened last week. The Lions have been playing in a lot of like, tough games here. And like earlier in the year, there was a stat that like every time a team played the Lions the next week, they lost. Like the Lions, I think, we're getting to that point in time of the year where teams can start to play spoilers, division games. We only got 2 more weeks of football left. So I like a couple of the Bears. Like I said, the Bears receiving options, Jahmyr Gibbs, and obviously Amon-Ra. Sam Laporta is a guy that like I just want to take just a second to also highlight as well. I think like it's been a rough year at the tight end position, but I think this feels like one of those games for me with Sam Laporta might be able to get open and make some noise here in this game because obviously Jahmyr Gibbs is now going to have to be the runner. So they have to find some additional options in the passing game because that's a place where Jahmyr Gibbs has done pretty good. Probably not as good as he should or could. But like I like Sam Laporta in this one here, man, to play from a GPP perspective.
Okay. I definitely like that too. I think in this matchup, when we're talking about look, want to get really interesting. you want to get really interesting, because this is total GPP play, but it goes against leverage when it comes to percentages. It's Craig Reynolds. Look, I think when we're talking about the Lions still wanting to do what they want to do in terms of um, running the football, establishing the tempo, um, you're looking at a duo that we talked about, Sonic and Knuckles, Montgomery, and Gibbs, right? Not to say Craig Reynolds is going to come in and be Knuckles per se, but I do think in a game where the last time this situation did happen, Craig Reynolds had 14 carries. So I think that has something to, that has some sway. And at least thinking about, I'm guessing he's mid price right now. I think he's 4 or 5 mid price on DraftKings. No one's gonna play him, and if this game gets ugly, we don't want to really run Gibbs to the ground just yet, right? In a situation where we're still, for the Lions, they're still looking at the number 1 seed. Let's just say Washington pulls off the upset today. So that's where, again, like, we're looking at a situation for the Lions where they may still want to, if they get out to a big lead, Craig Reynolds still becomes a very beneficial factor here. And not exactly Gibbs here, but I know what you mean by as far as touches goes for Gibbs. It's like trying to get into a situation where we can get different. So Amon-Ra St. Brown makes a ton of sense too. Next game, Eagles, Commanders. Speaking of Washington, Eagles 12-2 in the year, and then the Commanders 9-5 in the year. The over/under right now is 46.5. The Eagles are favored by 4.5. Charlie has got a question for us, and we'll get to that right now. Half-point PPR. He said, should I go with Rachaad White versus Dallas, the Sunday Night Football game, or Tyrone Tracy versus the Falcons? John, you want to take this question first?
Yeah. I think for me, man, I think it's Rachaad White. And the only reason why I say, man, is just because Buccaneers they've been rolling, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. And I think, like, very secretively, they're trying to protect Bucky Irving to get to the playoffs. I know I think he might have like 14 or 17 carries last week. But Rachaad White, like, they've started to kind of run like that dual backfield as they were doing like earlier on in the year. And obviously, man, points to be scored, right? So I think like that's where I'm looking, is that I know Tyrone Tracy has been really good, but like, man, the Falcons are one of my favorite plays on defense today, as far as like from a DFS side of things going against the Giants. So, like, yeah, man, like, I'm going to take Rachaad White, and I'm going to sleep like a baby, man.
I think I'm in agreement. I like Tyrone Tracy. I wish they were using him more to his strengths. Tyrone Tracy initially came into this league as like a receiver-ish type of back, and they haven't really used him like that. And then, Devin Singletary kind of creeping into the usage kind of worries me as well. And the only reason why, I know people will say Rashad, or Bucky Irving, this, but at least Rachaad White. I know in a back and forth game, I know at least Rachaad White will get more, in a sense, more usage. I just worry, what I'm saying, just about the Giants situation. They're a bad team in a game environment where I don't think the pace is going to be that, going high tempo. Where the Dallas Tampa Bay game, they have one of the higher over unders on the week. Sunday night game, I always like playing a Sunday night football game just in case things go a little bit more weirder, and then you have a spot where you at least can get some points to make up in your matchup. So give me Rachaad White. He's just been a guy that, somewhat been a thorn in some people's sides. You have Bucky Irving. Yeah. But at least I know with Rachaad White, like, he's had, if we look at, his numbers, like, he's had back-to-back games, at least 15 carries. And he's had at least back-to-back games, at least 2 catches at least. So it's like the volume for touches will still be there, according to the last few games. And going back to the last 3 games, he's had at least 65 yards on the ground or more. So at least that's where a nice floor play is nice, potentially a touchdown, because in this game environment, the pace should go a little more back and forth. So that's why we're probably more in agreement with Rachaad White over Tracy. But go with your gut, because, again, I know everybody comes out for advice, but I think go with your gut. If you think Tyrone Tracy is going to be able to do more of a usage role, potentially score a touchdown as well, then it makes sense. But he's banged up as well. So I would go Rachaad White. talking about this Eagles Commanders game. These two teams played each other several weeks back. I think it was week 11. The week was. And the game was a little bit skewy. It was a Thursday night game. Brian Robinson wasn't as healthy in that game. For the Washington side, you had what is it? It was just a squirrely game. It was a slow down spot. It was in Philly, so Hurts was looking okay. You know, say he had over 220 passing yards, but it wasn't like a dominant performance for the Eagles by any means. Commanders, they know they have to still keep on winning for their spots in the playoffs. As we look at the NFC picture, the NFC picture pretty much is Rams and pretty much the Commanders that keep winning because if they don't, because the Packers 10-4, they're a game behind them. And then as far as for the couple last spots, we know the Rams and Seahawks 8-6 fighting for the division last spot. The Cardinals 7-7. So it's pretty much the Commanders got to keep on winning in order to keep what they have going. But to beat the Eagles, who have let's just face facts. The Eagles, man, they're on a 10-game winning streak, and it's just one of those spots where I know it's division matchup, and this has happened before with these two teams actually, where Washington has found a way to upset the Eagles. I'm just not sure if that's in the cards per se. The Eagles still have been playing really good football, so it's not like we're not catching them slipping per se. I think defensively it's gonna be a tough day. The good news is they have Brian Robinson for this matchup, but I know they definitely rely on a ton. But again, no Noah Brown, no Austin Eckler for this game. You have Zach Ertz, who did practice, but he's still in concussion protocol. I'm not sure if he's playing or not. Which pretty much, if Ertz is out, then you pretty much have McLaurin and everybody else. And again, Daniels has already kind of showed us that he loves targeting McLaurin, and like everybody else is kind of like a very low secondary piece, Zacchaeus and stuff like that. I'm just not sure that's enough to beat this type of Eagles squad who's just been on a heater game by game, but also they just have multiple ways to beat you, and their defense has been just playing really well. So the 4.5 makes sense. I know it went up a point. Says it was, I think it opened at 3.5, and now it's 4.5. So give me the Eagles, give me the points. Because the Eagles still are fighting for the number 1 seed as well. They hold off the Lions. So a lot to play for both teams, but I think the Eagles are going to look to showcase once again that they're primed and ready for a Super Bowl run.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think just to
Barkley.
Yeah, I was about to say just to put a couple things into context, right? Like that's exactly like where I was getting ready to go. It's like it smells like Saquon Barkley is getting ready to have another day, man. Especially right, like for fantasy owners, if you were able to somehow come out on the other end of the performance that he had last week. Against the Steelers, and you're still alive, like that's great. I think the last time these two teams played, 26 carries, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 52 yards, so almost 200 total yards. The Commanders have been a defense that running backs have feasted on all year. I don't think that really changes here in this situation, in this setting. Just again, the Eagles on that Thursday night game held Terry McLaurin, I think, to 1 catch for 2 yards or something like that there.
1 catch, 10 yards.
Yeah. So, we're looking again as far as, the Commanders and their options or lack thereof now, potentially with Zach Ertz being out, no Noah Brown, as you mentioned. This just feels like a game to me, man, where, the Eagles just continue to keep the momentum rolling. And again, man, some of the additions by subtractions, they started to make some of these moves in the secondary a little bit later on, or the mid part of the year, they started to, to play some of their younger players in the secondary. And kind of since that's happened, man, this team has been absolutely hot. One of the interesting things for me, man, is the Commanders now, Marshawn Lattimore, having him now in the mix here, right? If you haven't played AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, that could get kind of interesting for me, not in a good way, because I think we know what Marshawn Lattimore is. But yeah, man, not a lot of ownership in this game here. I think it's just because the price tag is pretty hefty on all the players. Brian Robinson for me from the DFS side, I'm probably staying away, man, just because like we talked about, this Eagles defense has been really, really good.
Not a good
Uh,
matchup.
yeah, so like I'm probably staying away from him in GPP or obviously in any type of single formats. Saquon's pricey, right? But like, hey man, if he gives us 202 this time, he could potentially pay off that price tag, and obviously you don't want to be on the other side of that. I think the Eagles cover this one pretty easy. This is one of the games I feel super confident about, just where we're at. So give me the Eagles, and yeah, give me the Eagles and Saquon Barkley.
Makes sense. I think from this game, when it comes to just targeting, like I do, in a way, I do like Jalen Hurts when it comes to just like or Daniels, because both of those guys are talked about it before. It's like both these guys are probably not gonna have a ton of ownership. In a matchup where I think people are going to stay away, but these are the times where I'm a GPP type of guy. Like it's where I want to attack because the ownership's not going to be as heavy. People are going to probably look at the last slate of games and they're like, oh yeah, this may happen, close to happen again or whatever. But with division games, they're always up in the air. And I think you have to always like be open to something else potentially happening.
Jalen Hurts would be like, if I was gonna play anybody, like either one of those guys, it would be Jalen Hurts, and it would just simply be because of obviously the ability for him to be able to punch one in or two in, and maybe have 150 or 200 yards passing, and
Right.
maybe if he has one passing touchdown and potentially two rushing touchdowns, then boom, there you are. But like Jaden Daniels for me, man, I don't love the spot for him today, so he's somebody that like in GPPs I have a small slice of, not a lot, just because like to your point, like hey, if something does happen, like obviously you want to be there for it, but like I'm again, like I'm all the way in on the Eagles on this side of thing versus the Commanders.
I just like for the game before, it's like, and Daniels didn't have the best game, and because they didn't, I think. Well, what was I say? The rib injury, I think, was still a factor, even though it was like 3 weeks removed from him getting hurt. So I think that was still a factor when it comes to his rushing. But if you're hopeful to play him, you're hoping that he runs a lot more. The 11 carries last week for 66 yards, like that was something else. So it's like, all right, like can we hopefully Daniel's more involved this week?
Yeah, man.
Rushing,
like I said, man, like I know that's the hope, bro, but like I just feel like, man, like you mentioned, this Eagles defense, man, they're rolling.
Tough.
Like they are rolling, and like Jaden Daniels as a passer, like it's there. Like you can't take that away from him. But I just think the amount of pressure that this front is gonna put on him today and turn this team into a one-dimensional team, like I'll let somebody else deal with that.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. But yeah, question in the chat from Nathaniel Boyd.
Here we go.
He's asking Patrick Taylor, Kenneth Walker. You gotta go Kenneth Walker, bro. Hands down. I like Patrick Taylor. We don't know. Like, if it was Patrick Taylor or like Tyrone Tracy or something like that, where it's like we don't really have like the best, like everything's projecting for Patrick Taylor to be the workhorse running back here. But with the Niners and Kyle Shanahan, if it's not McCaffrey, you don't really know when they start the first game, because no one really knew Jordan Mason was going to be starting against the Jets week 1, and then he went the hell off. So it's one of those situations where it's like, do you really want to bank on someone that not sure about the volume usage and stuff like that versus a guy like Kenneth Walker, who we know he'll at least get his share of workload. Charbonnet is also playing today too, so but I don't think there'll be such a split between those two today. I don't think in a game where they have to win. They're at home, and I know Kenneth Walker coming off the calf injury, but it's something where I just got to start my stud. I got to start my stud when he comes back, and half-point PPR, it's like Miami's defense has been playing pretty tough versus both QBs and running backs. They've been holding people down. So San Francisco going from west to east does play a smidge of a factor. But give me Kenneth Walker at home coming back. They need this win. I expect him at least get 16 carries in this game and potentially a touchdown. So give me Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on playing Kenneth Walker just because, like, dude, like you mentioned, like you never know with Kyle Shanahan, man. Kyle
No
Shanahan
idea.
hates people that play fantasy football. Like he does. Like he hates people that play fantasy football. Like that's just the reality of the situation. And yeah, the Dolphins have been playing really good. I think obviously, like if you want to look at it from like a volume perspective or projected volume perspective, like yeah, like Patrick Taylor should get most of the work. And then Kim Walker coming off this calf injury. Like if he's completely healthy, the Seahawks still have something to play for. Geno Smith is a little bit banged up. Kim Walker's practically out here playing for his position. His Sharps has looked good over the last couple of weeks. So I think there's just a little bit more ammunition for that right there. And then the other point of it too, man, is the Seahawks, we know what they're going to do. We know they're going to throw the ball. We know that this is a game where they're playing the Vikings. I think there's supposed to be some rain in that game. We'll have to check it a little bit later. So if that's the case, obviously looking
Walker.
Obviously looking to get him involved a little bit more. So I like Kenneth Walker in this half PPR format for you, man.
Makes sense. Do we have any more to say about the Eagles Commanders before we move on?
Nah, bro.
No. All right. Rams, Jets.
Ooh, here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. What?
Here we go.
Here we go. What? What are you rubbing your hands for?
Man, it's cold. I told you, man. My office in the summer, it's a sauna. In the winter, it's an ice box, and like it's like 9 degrees here in Maine, bro. So like I'm rubbing my hands because it's a little chilly in here. So
all right.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
All right. Well, that being said, the Rams in a spot where they got to keep winning, going on the road to MetLife Stadium to take on the trash New York Jets. Rams are getting 3 on the road in a spot where, let's just face facts, Jets season has just been a dumpster fire. It's been a nosedive. So, I mean, they're playing on pride, I would say, and there's rumors about Garrett Wilson being traded, like whatever. There's going to be a bunch of rumors swirling around this team. I do think, however, that Aaron Rodgers wants to still prove that he could play in this league, and I've seen that in back-to-back games at least. So that's where I think from a side of playing for pride, playing for your career, I say, because that's what Rodgers is doing at this moment in time. He's playing for his career. At least when it comes from the passing game, has been a lot better. Back-to-back games are at least 285 yards and more. We had 289 last week against Jacksonville, and the week before that against Miami, 339. I think the spot for the Rams is valid. I think I'm going to take the Rams with the points, though, because that line's a little too low. For a team like McVay's team, they know they have to keep on winning, and there's so many weapons to account for the Rams side of things. I know the defense is going to make things more interesting. To where this game could be a little bit more of a shootout-ish, a little bit more at a lower scale of a shootout potentially. So I think give me Rams in the points, but give me the over. I think both defenses have proven. I know the Jets defense has been a little bit more solid lately, but it's still a team where, again, Jets is one of those teams where they find it, they get down deficit-wise. They don't really have the heart to continually come back. And the Rams, it'd be a real fumble if they lost this game, in my opinion, because this is a spot where coming into the season, you probably look forward to, but now it's like, you better make sure you get up for it, is all, because it's still the NFL. But give me the Rams and the points, because I hope the Jets keep on losing for a good draft pick.
He's turned into the draft pick guy, ladies and gentlemen.
I have to. What else is there to cheer for? What else is there to cheer for?
Oh, man.
Nothing else to cheer for, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude. I think the Rams should definitely take this game here, man. Just kind of looking through some things, man. Jets playing a lot of man coverage, and that just seems like to me like easy money for an offense like that with Matt Stafford and Puka and Cooper Kupp, especially after the performance that Kupp put up last week. I think like obviously you're going to see the Rams try to come out and get him involved early and try to get him involved often. And then like you mentioned, man, like the Jets just overall, it's a pride thing right now, right? And obviously Devontae Adams coming off of his best game of the year for sure. Obviously want to keep getting him the ball. And like, you know, we talked about, or you talked about like last week, like the squeaky wheel narrative. Does Garrett Wilson, does he fall into this category? And I think that's going to really say a lot, like in my opinion anyway, about,
that'd be interesting,
you know, how they view him and where he's at, like it in the pecking order of things, the squeaky wheel narrative. So that'll be pretty interesting for me to see. And then like just real low key.
Nope, it's going to be Devontae Adams again.
Real low key. Brees Hall played last week. You know, I was on here just bitching and complaining about like didn't know what we were gonna get. And he showed up. But what
scored a touchdown late.
Yeah, like you know, which I needed that. I'll take it. But the Rams, the Rams, you can run on the Rams. So I think it'll be a little bit interesting to see how this kind of shakes out with this Jets backfield. Because we are officially in that time of season now where it's like, do we continue to play these star players to potentially get them hurt in a meaningless game, a week before the new year? So I think it'll be interesting to see as far as that goes. But just overall, man, like I said, I like the Rams. Matt Stafford is a very sneaky play for me this week. Obviously, like for me, one of the things like I talk about a lot here, just from the fantasy point suite is just adjusted completion percentage. And Matt Stafford is one of the top 10 quarterbacks on this slate in that metric. So I feel good about where they're at. And Puka Nacua, man, like, I was a little bit late to the party on him, but I just think like after the last couple of weeks, man, like just watching him, bro, like it's evident that like my view of him, my view of him now is like, he reminds me of like a hyper animalistic physical specimen of Hines Ward, just out there playing hard, playing his ass off, running over people, making crazy catches. Said all that to say, man, it's my long-winded way of saying, give me the Rams. And then when we look at from the DFS perspective, a lot of people on DraftKings is what I'm talking. A lot of people are interested in Devontae Adams today. He's at almost 15% ownership today at 7.1K. A lot of people are interested in Kyron Williams as well. So I think it'll be interesting for me to see how that shakes. Garrett Wilson, 5%. So if you buy into that squeaky wheel narrative and you want to, run that risk and you think this game has the potential of low-key shootout, Garrett Wilson is a really good place to go at a really good price at not a lot of ownership. He's 6.6K. Right now. And again, not a lot of people playing Brees Hall. Cooper Kupp, 6.5, 4% owned. So you can get some action in this game on the DFS side of the world at an inexpensive price and not a lot of ownership. So that might be something to check out on DraftKings.
I like that. It's like when it comes to the Jets receivers, it's like, look, 7,100 for Adams, 6,600 like you said for Garrett Wilson. It's like both of these guys should get theirs in this matchup. But like you said, I think for 6,600, it's interesting. But dare I say Cooper Kupp in this matchup at 6,500 because everybody's forgotten about Cooper Kupp. And it's understandable why they forgot about Cooper Kupp. The Jets against the slot, though, they've been giving it up. They've been getting ripped.
He's like
ripped in the slot. Yeah. So it's one of those classic spots where everyone's gonna overlook him and be like a guy like, oh yeah, we don't know if he, just making all these question marks. But 6,500, that's still too cheap for a guy that all of a sudden can have 12 targets, 8 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown, and you'd be the one that'd be like, man, in hindsight, it was still Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he's one of the I have 4 receivers, man, that I'm super invested in this week. And he's actually, after that dud of a performance, and even though me calling the dud of the performance, the metrics and everything just says that, to your point, the Jets against the slot, they've been giving it up. So he's somebody that I will be playing and quite a bit of in GPP for sure.
Nah, it's just I think that's somewhere where I think it's if you have if you're trying to get a little bit of weight, if your lineup's looking a little too chalky, it's a spot where I would just like easily pivot to because these are the spots where just in general talking DFS strategy, like when you have a lineup that might be looking a little too chalky, you want to get to a spot where people name wise still looks like a name, but production and performance, whatever, still outweighs maybe total outcome of what may happen for that player. So, meaning, for example, if I have, like I said, Cooper Cup, no one expects a donut from him, but it's never really in the range of outcomes per se. But the range of outcomes usually gives you a nice average, but then the ceiling for him as well. So you also got to equate that who's going to be on that as well based on popular demand, ownership, stuff like that too. So that's where some of that stuff, if it sometimes out these type of stuff come that works together because normally Cooper Cup is a 7,500 type of receiver, so you get a nice little $1,000 discount. Look at it that way. And then if he doesn't really perform the expectation and it is what it is, you knew the risk that was baked in, but it's already baked in. So at 6,500. So if he burns you, all right, cool. I mean, you know the risk of it. But again, it's always 6,500 in my viewpoint. Where there's other spots where it's like, all right, well, you can just make sure you pay for him and pay for another guy in that same range possible. But again, that range, anything can happen. So
translation, if he burns you, get some antibiotics. Let's go.
Ouch. onto a game where this could spell a little interesting. Giants getting 9.5 on the road going to Atlanta. 2-12 Giants on the year. Falcons 7-7, fighting for their playoff lives now at this point. A lot of news happened in the Falcons land this week. Kirk Cousins no longer the starting quarterback. We have Michael Penix Jr. as the new starting quarterback. He is 4,500 on DraftKings, so pretty much almost a bare minimum. And I think people are going to be going to him a ton today for whatever reason. Because we all know the Penix has some talent behind that arm, right? And Giants, they're just beat up, but they've been underperforming all year long too. For whatever reason, they've been really good against tight ends this year for whatever reason. So Kyle Pitts might be, someone dropped him. I picked him up in a league, and I was like, I'll just put him on the bench, see what happens. If I make a championship game, who knows? I got to see what happens with Penix because that's outside of Bijan and Drake London. It's like, who can we really solely trust in this Falcons offense? Because we don't know what really is going to happen for Penix. Not to say, the range of outcomes all over the place. Everyone expects him to be, on point though, and especially for a guy at 4,500. Like, all you need is like what, 18 points, something like that, whatever, to have a solid day. If we're talking about 3.5x, what 3.5x is, and you need 16 basically.
16, so
16, 18 is definitely within the range. You're getting a start at home, which is always also a good thing. And these Falcons in general, again, fighting for their playoff lives, they decided to go with Michael Penix. What do you say to this game overall, Johnny?
I actually love the setup for this game. Not for Michael Penix per se, but I just love the setup for our cover boy Bijan. Because if you're implementing in a new quarterback, right, a rookie quarterback, what's the best thing to do? Give the ball to Bijan. Give the ball to Bijan. Give the ball to Bijan. And I think, let's not overthink it. Like, let's not get distracted by the bright, shiny object that is Michael Penix. And, hey, let's just go over here and let's go to Bijan and the run game and see what it's going to be. I don't expect Penix to come out here and be throwing the ball all over the field. I think this is just one of those situations. Perfect timing, perfect setup. They still have a chance to win the division. All right, hey, how do we ease them into this right here? We ease them into this right here with the New York Giants, right, at home. All right, cool. And I think it's going to be great, man, just to see, what else it unlocks for this offense. And just, looking at some things and hearing some things, right? Drake London, if you're starting, you have an alpha out there on the outside. So what are you going to do? You are going to throw him the ball. So I wouldn't expect to see him throw the football a lot today, man. Maybe 19 to 25 times, something like that right there, if they can obviously control this game, which they should. I mentioned it earlier. The Falcons are one of my favorite plays on defense on all sites. And then when we think about things as well, just a couple of other, really, I wouldn't say random stats, but the Giants are in the top 10 for most yards given up. 128, sixth in most rushing first downs, and third in explosive yards. So everything smells like a Bijan Robinson day to me. So I just think, like I said, I just think it's too point blank and obvious for me. As far as the line goes, like obviously, I would say I would probably go with the under on this right here. Is what I would be going with. Another play is Malik Neighbors. Obviously, like he's still going to be playing, and he's still somebody who's going to get a lot of targets. I remember a couple of weeks ago when you had recommended playing him, and you were like, "What am I doing? Like, oh my god, like what was I thinking?" And like in garbage time, he ended up getting peppered with a lot of targets, and he still ended up, getting there. And I think it could be a very similar situation in this game as well. But like the Falcons at home, fighting for their playoff lives, playing against, one of the three worst teams in the NFL, Bijan Robinson all day, man. I feel like it's a big day for him today.
Whew, hopefully so, because you know what I'm saying? I need Bijan Robinson today. Need him to come through. Need him to continually come through. Bottom 5 matchup against the Giants. So yeah, it makes a ton of sense because definitely needs to roll today. But yeah, to give the rookie some confidence, I think that's where it might spell. You know what I'm saying? Bijan Robinson, even Algier to an extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, just need a game like he did last week, maybe even more. You know what I'm saying? So just get the end zone in there, get in the end zone. Get that man in the end zone.
I think it happens today, man. I think like we're like, Raheem Morris, man, he's at that spot now where it's like, okay, like they put all that money into Kirk Cousins. Like you seen what it was. Like they hoped for the best, prepared for the worst. They didn't get the worst, but like they were smart enough to understand that, like, okay, like it's not gonna get any better. And like the offense was just so limited. Yeah, like having hit, like they were just so limited. And I think it's been frustrating all year long for any fantasy manager that had obviously Kyle Pitts or even a Drake London owner, right? Like it's the same thing, man. It was so frustrating. The only person that really benefited from all this was Darnell Mooney. Really, like, and he was like the best, he was the best ROI like out there, man. So, but like one thing I didn't hit on was just like the ownership. So I just want to hit on that real quick. DraftKings perspective, Malik Neighbors, man, is almost 22% owned.
And he was like what 12% last week, something like that. Like
So
I'd be killing it with that type of stuff, bro. Like telling people start Neighbors with confidence. Like 15-point dog. Like, you're gonna keep throwing the football at him.
Yeah. So man, yeah. And then you got Penix, man, which I think playing Michael Penix. So I just want to talk about that for like real quick, like not too long, but like playing Penix either on DraftKings or either on FanDuel. Right, like it opens up so much for everybody, man. And then like you think about some of the other chalkier plays out there at a low price, like the Patrick Taylors. Evan Strange isn't necessarily chalk, but like he's a lower price tight end that could give you some really good production and some really good value. So like then you're able to get to your Saquon Barkleys, you're able to get to your Bijan Robinsons, right? Like you're able to you're able to get some of those Jamar Chase. You're able to get to those places by playing Penix, but you just got to know that like if you're playing Penix, you got to make sure that like, hey, like you got to hit everything else. You got to hit everything else out of the park, man. Yeah. So, which is cool, man. You know what I mean? Just to be able to roll them out there. So you will see a lot of lineups out there like that in GPP and single entry. So you just have to ask yourself, like, how can you get different? And I think by getting different, right, is just like a couple of the names that I just mentioned, that and then kind of moving up in the quarterback list to get to a Joe Burrow or some of the other higher caliber players like you mentioned earlier. Jalen Hurts is a nice pivot to get to. So yeah, man. So that's where we're at on the DFS side. And then Drake London, again, man, like not getting a lot of love. I think just playing Drake London independent. Well, I shouldn't say not getting a lot of love. 8%. Playing him independently.
That's not good.
What happened?
Quentin Williams out today for the Jets. Oh, that's not good.
Well, you said it wasn't good anyway, so there you go. They just helped you.
Told you. Told you take the Rams. Anyway, you were continuing.
Yeah, no, I just think like Drake London's at a really good price, right? And you don't have to overthink it. Like just play. You can play Drake London. And if he's gonna throw it, 20 times or so, he should get about 8 targets, 9. So he should be able to get to work on that end of things. I think, what is he like? Maybe I think he's like 64. I think is what I had seen. Yeah, 6,400. So yeah, so it's not a bad. Drake London is not a bad play, independent of everything else going on around this game.
No, not at all. On to the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals getting 4.5 on the road, going to Carolina. Over under 46.5. Arizona, yo. Games we play with this team, right? The games we play. If you were able to survive last week with Kyler Murray on your roster, congratulations. I got cut on one of my teams because of him. But now I have to start him this week. In a big matchup that I have in my family league. And bragging rights consistently on the line in this league. And Kyler Murray. Do your fucking thing today. Yo, do your thing today. Like, I don't want to hear no excuses today. Him and McBride, do your thing today. McBride, find him, give him the man a touchdown.
Love it.
15 weeks of NFL, and you don't give him a touchdown. This is awful. This is awful. But I digress from my personal take. Cardinals, they got it. They have to win. I mean, we were saying this for the last several weeks, though. Will they win? I don't know. Carolina kind of showed its ugly little head last week against Dallas, where they were actually, according to books, they were a favorite. And we were like, I told him, I was like, look, I'm taking the Cowboys. This is weird. Why is the Carolina Panthers a favorite? And it's because I know the last couple of weeks they've been playing pretty hard against other teams, whatever. But I was like, it's still Carolina.
Fair. That's fair. It's fair. Like I love the way they had been playing the last few weeks. Yeah.
Me too. But I was like, it's still Carolina. And then what happened? The Dallas Cowboys defense freaking showed the heck up, and Parsons was all over the field, and they were all making plays. It was crazy. I do expect the Cardinals. I don't know. They're more of an average defense, so I'm not sure what is like their range of outcomes all over the place. This could easily be a game where the Cardinals go on the road and they struggle. But with Kyler Murray, especially, like I know he's somewhat played just a tad bit better on the road than he has at home this year, which is weird. So I can give me the Cardinals because someone's twisting my arm to take the Cardinals. I will, but like I said, he's had better performances on the road than he has when it comes to that being at home. The matchup is there on paper, like Cardinals, as far as James Conner goes, as far as Kyler Murray goes, stuff like that. The running game is definitely there for them to take advantage of. Panthers allow the most rush yards allowed per game. They're still giving up the most, and through the air, they're still a bad defense through the air. So historically, I wouldn't say they're like one of the. Historically, we could definitely say this defense has been absolute trash. So everything is on the wall for Kyler Murray to take advantage of. Will he, Johnny?
Well, the only way he doesn't take advantage of everything written on the wall is if James Conner shows back up to bury people like he did last week. And everything says, again, fifth. The Panthers rank fifth in explosive yards given up on the ground. Obviously, they are terrible against the run, like goes without saying. 34 rushing first downs. This could be a combo spot, man. It could be a spot where we see Kyler Murray and James Conner both deliver here in this game. I don't know if you caught the Kyler Murray press conference the other day when he was talking about how he's played in Cole's games, and they're like, "Oh, how Cole's going to be?" He's like, "Oh, they're like 35." He's like, "Oh shit." But to your point, man, it just seems like it's one of those spots, man, that's like, which Cardinals team
anything can happen.
Which Cardinals team are you getting? So I think like that, like that's the piece that I'm a little bit hesitant about. However, I think again, to go back to your Kyler Murray take, there's a lot of, I think the problem is that like everything shows us that there's so many ways for the Cardinals to beat the Panthers. They could beat them through the air. They could beat them on the ground based off of coverage, and a lot of cover 3 for these guys as well. And I think obviously, man, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a name that like people are just like, you're probably not playing still if you have Marvin Harrison Jr. on your team. So I think there's that. But like, what better week for him to come out and ball out than against the Carolina Panthers? So I think there's just
that'd be
like
fun.
I think there's just like to your point, there's a lot of range of outcomes in this game right here. As far as like who it is and what happens. But like one of the things that I can say with a lot of confidence here is that the pass catchers for these groups here, man, you know, other than Trey McBride, people are in on him. But other than that, like, you know, you can get in on Adam Thielen. He's at 13%, so that's a little bit high. Marvin Harrison Jr. is at 8. So, like, I'm looking at this, right? And I'm just thinking about, like, my DraftKings lineup here as we're talking, and I'm going to write it down. But, like, you could play a Marvin Harrison Jr. and a Drake London, and you got two potential number one wide receivers and some pretty decent matchups here that could have a positive return, possible positive return on investment based off their matchups. But like obviously, the only problem is we don't know what that other side is going to offer to keep the game going back and forth. So,
I mean, you're thinking Adam Thielen in this matchup. You know what I'm saying? That's the guy that
I like him. Like that's a great game
side.
stack, man. Yeah, that's a great game stack. And actually, even like I'm glad you mentioned him because Bryce Young is actually again like over the last 3 weeks, Bryce Young is number 2 in adjusted completion percentage. So like he's not a terrible play when you go to GPP. So really, if you want to say, hey, like maybe this is the game, but I think last week kind of broke my heart with that just to see like both teams kind of go at like a stagnant pace, the Cowboys and the Panthers, but maybe the Cardinals are able to put points up on the board. That pushes the tempo. And if that pushes the tempo, then now all of a sudden, man, you got Bryce Young at a sweet value. You got Adam Thielen at a nice price. Coke Boys, Jalen Coker as well. And we can't forget about one of the favorites of this show, Chuba Hubba. So this could end up being one of those games that we end up talking about next week. That's like, yeah, man, this was the game right here. So
it's possible. I think a piece or two from this game makes sense. The Thielen take 5,600 on DraftKings makes a ton of sense. Like you said, adjusted completions, like to Adam Thielen, who's been the veteran since he's been back, he's been looking really good. Coker obviously had the big play last week. A 5-catch, 51 yards, still a solid day for Thielen. We all know the ceiling's a bit higher. And now with no Xavier Legette, he's out today.
Yeah.
And I know Jalen Coker's a little bit beat up, they say as well.
Yeah.
Expect Thielen to have a better game like today. Expect a 10-catch performance today from Thielen today. So we'll have to see what happens. Arizona's been middle of the pack when it comes to allowing receiver work, but it's usually the more underneath the slot work, stuff like that. So this is a perfect matchup for Thielen. Dylan, he's asking a bunch of questions.
Love it.
It's playoff time. Yes, it is. That being said, he's got different questions for different leagues. So the first question I see is to start a running back and a flex. He has Abdullah, Madison, Spears, Odunze, and then Strange. So what do you say to that, Johnny?
Oh man.
And Tony Pollard's active, so Spears is out of the question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's out of the question, but I'm not sure if you'll feel strong starting him.
Yeah. And I like Odunze, I like in this situation, man, just because we've been talking a lot about just the slot receiver.
David Njoku active. Yeah.
Just been talking a lot about like the the slot situation for the Lions, right? And then obviously they got some injuries in the secondary. The problem is we don't know who it's going to end up being and who they're going to play in the slot. But like whoever the recipient is, like they're going to have a big day, and it could be possibly Rome Odunze. And they're probably going to have to throw the ball one way or another, right? Like in order to get up, or either if they're behind. So I like him. It is just really hard for me to pick a Raiders running back and go with. Like, I think it's just really hard. It's really hard for me to do that, man. And like he's got both of them. Like, but Strange, man. Like we've been talking about it. Like this is he should be the guy, and that offense was an offense that was designed to get the tight end involved. And like just from like a targets perspective, like he should stay busy all day long. So man, as unorthodox and as awkward as it is, as left-handed as this is, Odunze and Strange is where I'm going to go.
Makes sense. But you have to pick a running back.
Oh yes, okay. Oh man, there's so much stuff on there. Okay, all right,
I
okay.
know.
So,
That's the
all right,
first question, by the way.
all right. So then I'm gonna go. All right, so that's cool. I got you. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to the well with Amir Abdullah, man. And the only reason why
Are
I'm gonna
you?
go, yeah, I'm
Wow.
gonna go
Okay.
back. I'm gonna go back to the well with him.
All right.
Just because, like, I'm assuming this has got, yeah, it's a PPR. So
Yeah.
one way or another, right? Like, he's gonna bring you some value in the passing game. And he's been okay, man. Like, the Raiders they suck. We know that. But like, I would
They
go,
suck.
yeah. But like, I think like he gives you, but like PPR league, he's going to give you some value on third down, and he's also going to run the ball as well. And then I guess, Doomsday is strange. I guess just strange, man. Just because, like I said, like he should see more targets, and I think it's a little bit more riskier with Odunze, just based off of what's around him.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, look, the Amir Abdullah Madison thing. I'm just gonna start Madison because I think Madison's gonna be the guy that still has the starting role there. And should get a little bit more usage than Abdullah. So I'm not wrong for trying to think about Abdullah, but
No, it's
I know
just tough,
Madison.
man. It's
I know
a
it's a shitty
shitty
situation for running
yeah.
back because now you got to start a running back. Like, so I would say don't go with your gut, but I would say Madison because I think he was the guy that was starting to look like more of the workhorse running back, in my opinion. Mir Abdullah still looking like that third down, check down usage running back still. Even though when Madison was out, Amir Abdullah was stepping up, but now if Madison's back, I think they'll still have giving Madison an opportunity to still hold the job down one more time. And then with Tony Pollard playing, Spears probably out the question. Like they wouldn't, in my opinion, they probably wouldn't start Pollard if his injury wasn't, as significant, but they have been quiet about it all week long. But I guess I'll have to take face value and just sit Spears here, just because we don't know until like they start the game, like if there's going to be a split of series and stuff like that, whatever. So I would just rather see Madison overall, and obviously I think Strange because he'll get a ton of work volume in that same game, in a garbage game where Mac Jones has that rapport with Strange. He doesn't get double-digit targets and double-digit catch performance on an accident. These guys have had that rapport since these guys are pretty much playing the practice squad together for the most part.
That's it. Scruffy O, baby. Scruffy O.
Scruffy O is right. So yeah, I mean, give me Brandon Strange. The next question, he says start one tight end, Henry or Strange. Strange again. I have to start Henry in a league, but in a league this week because it's just the tight end waiver wire is so trash. But again, Brandon Strange is already collected. So yeah, Strange, I start him there. You agree, Johnny?
Yeah. 100%.
And then last question is one RB and then one tight end. So Walker or Jerome Ford, and then Tyrone Tracy's active today for people who are wondering. But yeah, Walker versus Ford, and then we have Zach Ertz versus Chig. I know I had to double check now the Zach Ertz situation because the last time I checked it, he was still in a concussion protocol, and it looks like he's trending towards playing today. Last time I saw an update on him. So, Ertz or Chig, man. Though I saw a stat that Chig had a 28% target share when Mason Rudolph entered the game last week. Man, so I don't know.
Well,
I think probably Zach Ertz because they have because if Noah Brown's already out, no Eckler. They got to find a way to check down short intermediate ways, and I think Ertz is going to find a way to get there.
Yep.
Chicks just seems like even though he, the target share report might be there with Mason Rudolph, it's still a little too dicey for this point in the season. Like to not have seen it,
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm in agreement with you, man.
With everything else. Besides Madison.
Madison Abdullah over here. Yeah. And like I said, man,
and that situation is so kooky because it could go either way.
Yeah, it really is, man. And like, I've been on there saying it, more than a few times, man. Like I've been a fan of Amir Abdullah ever since he came into the league, man. Like I know it really hasn't panned out for him. But like I've always been a fan of the guy. Like I think like this again, like this could be a matchup where maybe there are points scored. maybe there's no point scored. Like, we don't really know. But like, yeah, I just like what he does in the passing game, and I think he's kind of cemented himself in that role.
All right. Dylan, we appreciate the questions for sure,
man.
my guy. So moving on to the next game we got, and we got the Browns, the 3-11 Browns, getting 9.5 on the road, going to Cincy 6-8. But it's still a slimmer. That big of a window. That big. Really that thick of a window. Kind of opened up a little bit because Denver lost on Thursday. And if the Bengals win out and Denver loses one more game, the Bengals find themselves in the playoffs, which is crazy. And because Denver was looking like a team that was going to be like, looking like they had pretty much a shoe in for the playoffs. And then now, like, they have to play the Chiefs one more time. But I'm not sure if that's going to look like a situation where the Chiefs will probably play full strength anyway, because if they have already locked up the 1 seed, if somehow Buffalo loses today, like, the Chiefs would have locked up the number 1 seed. And if that were to happen, then they probably wouldn't have the same type of game they normally would for the Denver Broncos. But I will say that the Bengals, they've been playing hot football all year long offensively, and they've just been they've been one of the unluckiest teams I think I've ever seen. I think they average 30 points per game and then still lose within one possession games. Like, it's like the opposite of the Vikings from a couple years ago, where the Vikings were winning one possession games a couple years prior. And they won those games versus lost them. So the Bengals are opposite. It feels like one possession games they can't seem to, get a victory on. That happened to them. The Ravens a couple of times, happened to the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. So there's a couple of times where you just see that and you're like, man, this team cannot get anything, going their way and when it comes to close games. But don't expect a close game in this one. I think the Bengals are going to take this one. It's probably, the question is by how much. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie, second-year guy now at UCLA, starting for the Browns today. So James Winston getting benched. But who knows, because James Winston could end up probably back in this game later if DTR doesn't look great. I think that has happened before. So it's in the range of outcomes for that to happen. And I do think the Bengals still find a way to win. It's just more about, for fantasy purposes, like, does Jamar Chase get there? Does Chase Brown get there? Like, Burrow get there? Like, hopefully Chase and Burrow don't get there. I cut my own luck here, I don't need Jamar Chase, please. Nobody. T. Higgins is fine today. A couple weeks ago, we needed Jamar Chase. A couple weeks ago, we don't need T. Higgins. Now it's the opposite. Now we don't need Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase can chill. He don't need to go out there and ball no more, right? He'll get his money, right? Burrow, you don't got to play the second half.
Yeah, I mean, they held him down. Like, they held him in check last time they played. They held him in check.
21 points for Brown. They held him in check, last week. The last time they played. But what do you say to this, Johnny, overall? Like, I'm just messing. I think, obviously, I need some things to happen in this game, but
yeah. I just think, like, again, man, like, from a DFS side of things, I think the Falcons are my favorite spot to get to for one defense, and the Bengals are right number 2 for me. Just because I think, like, the Bengals have been suspect on defense for sure, but I just think, DTR, it just takes away all the pizzazz for this Browns offense. Like, obviously they're trying to win football games. So I understand, like, the thought behind it, but, like, Jameis Winston is great for fantasy managers. Like, so I'm not playing any Browns wide receivers this week or anything like that, just because I don't feel confident in DTR's ability to be able to throw the ball or to make these guys fantasy relevant for the day. I just think this is a situation where the Bengals just have too much firepower. You mentioned it. They're an unlucky football team, but, like, I think, won't even have to go on one of my old man rants about how, explosive this offense is and everything that they bring to the table. So I just think this is a game, right? The Battle of Ohio. I think Cincinnati, holds up their end of the deal. I wouldn't even be surprised, if they did cover the 9.5. and just beat the brakes off the Browns today. Like I wouldn't be surprised. And you mentioned, man, like you were talking about Chase. Like they did do a good job on Chase the last time they played, man. I think he had like 56 yards or something like that. So that is within the range of outcomes. But like one of the things like they are going to have to do is they it might be a T. Higgins day, man. It might be. It might be. It might be one of those days. But Chase Brown slowly starting to cement himself in the conversation of elite running backs in the NFL right now. Like, obviously, man, he's on the football field all the time. We see how explosive he is and what he can do in the passing game. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a Chase Brown day today. I really wouldn't be, just because, like, obviously, when you play the Bengals, what's the one thing you don't want to do? You don't want to start giving it up to Joey B and Jamar. Smells like a Chase Brown day to me, man. Ooh, headline: Chase Brown Browns the Browns, aka Chase Brown the Browns.
Stop that right now. Oh Lord. Yeah, I can't with you, yo. Oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, look, I just would not be surprised to see I would not be surprised to freaking see freaking Jameis Winston, in this matchup again. Like,
neither would I, man.
I wouldn't be shocked by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so matter of fact, I'm trying to remember if that happened before. Like, if they
it wasn't Jameis, but I think DTR started a game.
I think
he started the game and then he got hurt. And then I can't remember who it was they ended up having to go to, but I remember he started the game and then he got hurt.
Crazy, just the NFL madness, I tell you. DFS wise, though, I think you're right. I think Higgins can find himself having an opportunity in a day today with this matchup, because obviously you're so worried about, Chase, that you have to give attention to T. Higgins. T. Higgins did play this game last game. 4 catches, 82 yards and a touchdown on 8 targets. When they
when his hamstring hurting him?
I don't know, man. Was it?
I don't know. It's amazing now that hamstring is good. Now they're smelling playoffs. Smelling playoffs. Hamstring is good now.
Hamstring is good now. So I don't know. I think Higgins can have another great day today, because we all know, your priority is to stop Chase. Like, your priority is definitely to start chasing any means necessary. So
by any means necessary. That was my
means necessary.
That was my Farouk.
So we got one more 1:00 game. That's Titans and Colts. Titans only getting 3.5 in this spot, which is interesting for Mason Rudolph starting at quarterback now, going on the road as well. Over and right now 42.5. Colts, they're a weird team. They started off really well against the Broncos last week, and then just let it go away. Richardson just throwing, freaking, hotcakes left and right. Hey, here's one. Yeah. Pretty much put some honey on that and just served them. Hey, here you go.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
But yeah, I mean, look, like from a betting side of things, I think you have to take the Colts. The Colts defense has been playing a lot better lately in terms of a matchup wise. They've had, besides the last week, they've had at least 4 sacks or more. So we all know their front seven can get after it. Titans, man, I just don't trust Mason Rudolph. They just, I don't know, just the Titans I can't trust. I had Sturley today. It's just like,
can't trust nobody.
It's just a joke, man. Like, oh my goodness, like, why, just why can't it happen? Like, why? I had to start the Colts defense. So it's just like, nah. But what I'm trying to say is that, I mean, look, Anthony Richardson, if this is a game to prove that you belong in the NFL and you prove to have a good game today, this would be the game. Because the Titans overall, they are a good defense, but it's still where you should have plenty of positions to take advantage of potentially short fields against the Titans in this matchup. Richardson, at least for the most part, like, we're just hoping he brings it all together at one point in time. Like, he did a couple weeks, like before the bye week, New England game was probably his best one. But he only completed 50% of his passes, but he still ran a good ton as well. So that's what you're hoping for Richardson, like especially if you had started him. If you had started him today, oh boy, I thought about starting him because I didn't have Mahomes. I thought I wasn't gonna have Mahomes, but I was like, I gotta start Mahomes. Fuck this.
Yeah.
Then he came out 15-yard touchdown run. I was like, yeah.
There you go.
But anyway, what do you say to this matchup, Johnny? Because the Colts still need to win, but at the same time, they're like probably on the outside looking in at this point, just like the Bengals. There's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, I think this could be one of these games where we might get a little vintage JT. Titans have been.
Don't say that.
I think so. I
hope you wouldn't say that.
I think we get some vintage JT today, man. I'm actually I'm playing him with a lot of confidence today. Titans have been they've not.
It will be a Ridley game.
Shut up. They haven't been good over the last few weeks, man.
I said it. It's gonna happen.
No.
Hey, the last time it happened.
No, like they're third in most yards given up here over the last 3 weeks. And I think like JT, obviously I don't know him, but one would assume after what happened in Denver with the touchdown that wasn't a touchdown, one would have to assume that, he would give this team a really great performance in a situation where they need to win. And like you mentioned, man, Anthony Richardson, like, what a just call it what it is. What a fantasy bust for sure. But like hasn't been playing terrible over the last couple of weeks. He's somebody that is in my pool of players to play today in GPP. I hate every Colts wide receiver, Michael Pittman. I like him as a talent, but I hate him right now just because of his situation. Josh Downs, same thing. But I'm going to go to the well with that. And like, we talk about games that may or may not have the potential. I'm not saying this one does, but again, there is a range of outcomes where this could be one. I think this is going to be more of a slow-paced game where you're going to see both of the running backs being featured today, especially with what the Colts like to do on offense. Not really trying to expose Anthony Richardson, so I wouldn't be shocked if that happens in terms of the pace of this game for sure. But yeah, man, like that's where I'm at, like with this game here, man. It's like I feel like that's what we're gonna see. Jonathan Taylor's about 10% owned on DraftKings today. Anthony Richardson coming in at almost 16% owned. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
said I didn't expect that.
Yeah, like I mean, again, man, just looking at some of the numbers and stuff, dude. Like this is what it says. It says like the Titans have been a team that has been susceptible to. Hey, man, like and that's one of the things I'm, to like help uncloud my brain is I'm like, hey, man, like if the numbers say this and like I can put together a story, and like I said, the story is like, yo, you think about it, right? Like off subject, but like. At one point in time, we were talking about the Denver Broncos being like one of the elite defenses in the NFL. Over the last handful of weeks, they've been in quite a few shootouts. So is it the defense is good, or is it that the defense has regressed back to the mean? Well, all right. Well, here they go getting ready to play the Titans, a team that has been susceptible to the run. They just played in a game that had a lot of points. Like I can absolutely see a situation in a scenario here where JT, I'm not saying like he's going to break the slate or anything, but I could see a situation where maybe he goes for 80, 90 and 1 or 2, something like that right there. I could see a situation like that.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong on that. I just expect the Colts take care of business. I think they still have some things that they want to just accomplish as a team, and hopefully just still playing for their playoff live in a way like helps things. So I'm definitely taking the Colts, the -3.5. Like we bet in this spot before where the Colts have definitely blown up in our face before too, but Titans have as well. So it's definitely think we're gonna play ball. All of a sudden they get blown out too.
Listen, one team is 3-11 and the other one's 6-8. Give me the 6-8 team. Both of them suck.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a ton of sense. Next game we have on the docket, the 4:00 games. We'll start with the Vikings. Getting three on the road, -2.5 on the road to take on the Seahawks, 8-6. Over-run right now is, I gotta double check that because I think it is 42.5. Okay, for some reason thought it was over. Anyway, that's an easy over for me actually. I'm gonna take the over on that.
Weather.
I know, but hey, I think I'm gonna take the over on that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think both these offenses have an opportunity to, even though the weather wise it may not look as like good per se. Just to double check the weather now, like in Seattle, currently the drizzle's happening. Game doesn't start till 4:00 Eastern, so that'd be 1:00 out there.
Good chance of rain, my man.
So it's a good chance of rain. I know it rains in Seattle. I don't know. Sometimes with these rain games, we kind of overreact a little bit sometimes, but sometimes around the money. Like the Rams-Niners game that happened not this Thursday, but the Thursday before, like was right on money when it comes to the rain. So I have no idea now. Initially, if we're talking about, if it wasn't weather really affected, like the over would still probably be in play for me. It would just be raining to speed and seeing how they want to, both these offenses want to run the football as well. Aaron Jones versus Kenneth Walker / Zach Charbonnet. And both of these matchups, both of these teams still have a lot to play for. The Vikings still have to play for a chance at number 1 seed if the Eagles and Lions don't do their part. And the Seattle still playing for their playoff life. With a win here, they will be one step closer to securing a playoff berth and potentially the NFC West crown. So what do you say, Johnny, to this overall when it comes to both of these teams? I know the Vikings defense in general is going to be a defense that creates a ton of pressure, and Seattle's offensive line is still one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So yeah, like that could be the matchup that I think that determines this matchup.
Yeah, and I think too, like this is also a spot as well where you got Aaron Jones. He's still upright. And you just seen what just happened last week with Josh Jacobs. So this could be a spot where, based off of what the Vikings like to do, the 12-2 Vikings like to do, this could be an Aaron Jones blow-up game. That's another place that like I'm comfortable getting to today a lot, especially with the potential of weather. And then like we were talking about earlier, man, like just before we got on, like Jordan Addison is officially on a heater right now, man. Like he's playing some really good football. Obviously, so is Sam Darnold, and you can never disrespect Justin Jefferson, who's QB proof, which again, man, he was somebody that, I kind of pivoted to running backs earlier on in drafts this year to kind of stay away from that situation. And he's still producing like prime Kirk Cousins was still back there. And you have TJ Hawkinson as well, which, obviously like that's not a bad play at tight end. He's just been struggling to find the end zone, but he has been active. He has been getting yards. We're there. And then, to flip it to the other side, man, like now all of a sudden, like we talked about earlier, you got Charbonnet back, you got Ken Walker back. Now I shouldn't say Charbonnet back, but you have Charbonnet and Ken Walker now. So now all of a sudden now you have a 2-headed backfield. So like for us as fantasy managers, now that could potentially become a nightmare. And then
yeah, I know, right?
It's a nightmare. It's already a nightmare because we have like to say that who the guy is gonna be, you're just guessing. Because like you could make a case for both guys. Charbonnet had a career day against the Cards. He still has actually looked okay, man. I know he got a little bit dinged up last week. You got Ken Walker, who's coming off of an injury, so obviously he's dinged up. They're trying to make the playoffs. Geno Smith, is I don't even know how in the world he's even going to play based off of what happened last week. The offensive line is terrible. It's raining. Like there's just so many things that are like going against the Seahawks in this game that I agree with you. I think like 2.5 for me. I think the number is a little bit low for a defense that like we know Brian Flores getting off the bus, they're coming after you. So for me, man, like I like the Vikings in this spot. And then like from a DFS side of things, man, I won't even give you the ammunition right now. But DK Metcalf, 5.5 on DraftKings, coming in at almost 17% owned. We've officially arrived. It's JSN season. Shout out to my guy who had been calling it all off season, man. Oh, this is back even like, yo.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, dude, yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah. No,
How dare you?
Oh, bro.
How dare you?
Hey, listen.
I've been saying JSN all off season.
Hey, no, like I'm talking like before. Like JSN with him.
When you say before, we're talking about last season when everybody else was saying the same thing?
Nope. I'm talking right when we got right after draft season.
John.
It is
timeline.
Hey, it was JSN, he was like, this is my guy. Like, you have your guy's pin. That was his guy. I'm just showing love. That's it.
When's the timeline? Everyone was saying this last season about JSN as well, and everyone was crapping on him before coming into the season. No timeline.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, to digress,
it's not digressing. We need no timeline here.
I don't see him pinned on your guys. I don't see him pinned.
He's not, but that's someone I've talked about.
Okay. So and that's fine. You can talk.
He doesn't have to be my guy on the list to not say I didn't say he wasn't going to.
All I'm saying is this: is we all have people that we plant flags on. That was his guy, and that was his guy.
I'm curious to now see where this was. That's all. Just curious.
Don't get so sensitive.
Because he's on my draft out team.
Don't get so sensitive about it. You know,
I'm not getting sensitive. I just want to know his receipts. I want to know when.
Listen, I'm telling you, the receipt is before we were doing this.
Come on.
Okay.
That was a cop out.
Okay. All right. Anyway, all of this over JSN season as it's officially here. Yeah, so obviously now he's priced higher than DK Metcalf, coming in at almost 9%, especially shouldn't even really be talking about it after that win last night from Ohio State. But we're here now, man. It's JSN season, and it looks like that's the way it's going to be moving forward. So all that being said, like I was saying before Nick got in his feelings about JSN,
I'm good.
I just want
to win. I just want to know the receipt. That's all.
You think I just make it
up?
My feelings. You think I just make it up? You think I'm just?
I didn't say he made it up. I didn't say he made it up. I just say I told you about JSN as well.
God! Oh my God! You told me about JSN.
Yeah.
Stop.
Are you kidding me right now? You're joking, right?
Come on, dude. Come on.
What did I tell you on draft night out? I was like, I'm drafting JSN because he is going to be a breakout. When I told you I drafted him, he's going to be a guy that Tyler Lockett is going to disappear from this offense. Did I not tell you that?
Bro, I think everybody kind of assumed that was going to be the case, but
we're gonna move on, bro.
Please, we got to, because I'm dying over here.
I know you are. You're over there, getting choked up, I bet.
Oh my God.
Next game. Jaguars Raiders. A game that you want to talk about, right?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the Jaguars and the Raiders here, as this is ultimately going to be one of the games on the slate that is going to probably make or break someone financially here.
I hope not.
Bro, listen, DraftKings says we got Britton Strange coming in at like 20% on. People are back on Brian Thomas again at 20%. So people are really feeling the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Dang, I didn't know it was that real.
Yeah, listen, hey man.
I didn't know it was that real.
Listen, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. I don't know, for some reason. I told you I was extra grumpy today about these losses that happened, and I'm just being attacked out here. But yeah, like, this is a game that I think it could make or break people for sure. Like, I think obviously from the tight end spot, like we talked about Strange, he's somebody that I don't want to say it's a pivot, but you can get to that should get you some production at that spot for sure. And then Brian Thomas Jr., probably, well, not even probably, one of the best offensive rookies of the year of this season for sure. Like, he had a big game last week against the Jets. People seem to be willing to go back to the well once again, like, as far as that goes. The place that I'm really interested in is, how does this Raider backfield shake out, as we were talking about a little bit earlier? They got two running backs, and we don't know who's who in America. So we're going to have to figure that out this week. And then Brock Bowers.
Who's who in America, you said.
Then we got Brock Bowers, who, again, man, has put up a massive year at the tight end position for sure. So you got him, you got Jacoby Myers, who is literally, I'm not going to say he's a superstar, but I would say he's the quietest number one wide receiver in the NFL for sure. The guy, he's solid, man. Like, he's solid. And here we are. here we are talking about two teams that have absolutely nothing to play for other than pride. So who do I think is going to win this game?
Yeah,
I'm just
right?
gonna go. I'm gonna say the Jaguars, just because you know. I've been calling for Doug's job all year long. It doesn't look
surprisingly he has been fired. There's other guys that got fired before him, yo.
I know.
It's crazy, yo. It's kind of wild, actually.
It is very wild. And then obviously Antonio Pierce, who I think we're all, I don't want to say we're shocked, but like I think we just expected him to put a better product on the field with him being like the leader of men that he is, and then having like, the knowledge that he has. It just hasn't panned out for the Raiders in whatever aspect, man. So I say Mac Jones, who's just tell you everything you need to know, the most competent starting quarterback on the field in this game. Give me the Jags and whatever random pieces that they have, and we'll kind of take it from there. Yeah,
this is a straight pick 'em for me. Like the 2.5 the Jaguars are getting kind of makes sense, but I don't know. Like the Raiders, like they get O'Connell back, so O'Connell's all playing this game, right? I double checked that. I think O'Connell.
Yeah, but I mean, but
who cares?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I don't know, man. Like, I really, there's not a lot to. The only thing like I could even positively say would be just like the fact that the Jags, the Jags have two of the younger players. Like, that's really it. And like, this is an audition for Mac Jones to continue to keep himself in some kind of a relevant conversation to be a backup or a potential bridge starter. I think you can say the same thing for AOC, but like, obviously the Jaguars are not going to be drafting a quarterback. So I think we know what direction they're going to be going. So this game, actually, I guess, to pivot and say like there's no meaning to this game. This game could have a lot of implications, obviously, as far as the draft goes. And this might be a game that we look back at next year and it's like, oh man, well, because this happened now, like Travis Hunter is here, or Cam Ward is here, or Shador is here. So maybe I guess I'll take that play.
All right, that's fair to say too. So you got
Jags.
I got Jags too. I think there's a little bit more cohesiveness, I guess, with the Jags, in some way, shape, or form, because with Mac Jones, like he's been the backup quarterback, he has that sync with certain guys. I mean, the Raiders side of things as well, like I can see why they're the favorite. Brock Bowers, like, like alone, you know what I'm saying? Could
Brock
the whole thing.
Bowers.
He's a Georgia guy, by the way.
Ugh, I know. Yeah, don't talk about it.
Your face just turned, yo. Brock Bowers. So he's a Georgia guy.
Yeah. Like, we're fine. Like, just don't mention college football and we're fine. Like, we're fine. It's cool. Yeah.
Don't mention college football.
Yeah.
No shout outs to UT today? All right.
I almost did one with Jalen Reeves-Maven, but I just kept it to myself.
That's all you did.
I was like, I'll just say it in my heart. Like, that's the only place it really matters right now.
I'll just say it in my heart. You said.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Makes ton of sense. Man, my guy Johnny, yo.
Yeah.
He's losing over today, huh?
Yeah.
Gotta be over it, bro. It's all right, man.
It hasn't even been a full 24 hours. You can't tell me to be over it yet. Can't. It hasn't been 24 hours. 24 hours, I'm cool. 8 o'clock tonight, I'll be all right.
8 o'clock, all right. He'll be okay. All right, Patriots. 3-11 on the year. They're 14.5, a dog going into Buffalo. Take on the 11-3 Bills. 46.5 is the over-under, the 425 game. I'll tell you, I said it to you before we got on. These 4 o'clock games, man, just don't belong in this. They need to flip some of these games around.
You know what the commissioner's trying to do? He's trying to give everybody a chance to wrap their gifts. Is what he's trying to do. It's what the 4 o'clock windows for. 4 o'clock windows to wrap gifts. That's what I'm gonna do.
Bad, actually.
Yeah. I'm gonna wrap gifts and just have it on and and watch it.
Background music for me.
Yeah, because everybody wants to watch the Jags and the Raiders. Everybody wants to watch Josh Allen absolutely thump the Patriots. Everybody wants to see that.
Everybody wants to see that. Everybody wants to see that, bro. Oh man, yo. I'm trying to think of ways how the Patriots can cover this can beat the 14.5. Only way I see that happening is if the Bills beat themselves.
Yeah.
The Bills have been just constantly scoring constantly scoring. Back-to-back games are over 30 or something points, and this Buffalo team is just clicking on all cylinders. Despite them not throwing to Amari Cooper. Anyhow, this is my little gripe there. But the Bills have been playing just being great, and now they get a matchup against the Patriots, who should cream them. But man, like we say before, 14.5, man, the NFL division game, like Patriots may get up for this game, but I'm just not sure how they'll cover this thing in general.
Yeah, they'll get up.
We know their offense is not.
They'll get up all right.
We know their offense is not there. Drake May he's been okay in spots, but then this is just not the spot where I expect him to, really rise to the occasion. Similar to last week when it came to New England and them being on the road, like going to Arizona, and they got pretty much slapped up. I think the Bills are just that big of a game. I expect the Bills to win. The 14.5, I just probably won't touch. It's just something that it's a division game. Anything weird can happen. A turnover by special teams all of a sudden turns the point spread at least applicable. And the Bills, in my eyes, the Bills can score points, but sometimes they struggle at putting some opponents away. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen it a couple times this year already. You know what I'm saying? The Rams, when they lost that game, they were just trailing in that game constantly, but they just failed to put any type of foot on someone's throat in some ways. That was early on in the year, but they're at home. They always play better at home. So
yeah, I've said before, man, I've thought the Bills have looked soft in spots on defense. And every time I say that, they absolutely come out and smoke the opponent. I just don't think that there's a way, man, that the Bills don't win this game. I find it hard for the Bills not to be able to cover. I think this is just continued ammunition for Josh Allen, in his MVP campaign. The Patriots, man, like you said, Drake May is he's looked all right, man. He's looked probably about what we thought he would be, man. An athletic quarterback who's off the mark occasionally on throws. And defensively, it is what it is, man. I think there's a couple of guys that they got banged up there in the, as far as the Patriots go. Marcus Jones, out Jabril Peppers, possible. Who else we got? Not Christian Gonzalez, but Kyle Duggar. Some of their better players are, potentially on the fence of playing or not playing, which obviously we should get that info or should have already got it. But yeah, man, the Bills can win this game anyway.
That's why it probably hasn't come out.
Okay, I was about to say the Bills can win this game. They can win this game any way that they want to, and I think we've seen that, right? We've seen them with Ray Davis, with James Cook, with Ty Johnson, they can get it done however they want to. I ain't gonna waste any more of my hot air on this game because I think the Bills they smash these guys and then they ain't even close, man. Get your wrapping paper out.
Get your wrapping paper out. I love it. On to the Niners Dolphins, which should be more of a competitive game.
Yeah.
A little bit more on the limelight for us fantasy folk.
Yeah.
Obviously the last game, Josh Allen, what I'm saying, should be should get there pretty easily. Just don't wear yourself out, Josh Allen. Leave some on the bone for some other people.
Yeah, all the Ty Johnson starters out there. Go for it.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna do it. I'm not even gonna do it.
No. I'm not gonna get fooled. There's just certain players that you're I just can't. Even if they do a great thing a couple weeks in a row, it's man, I can't. Just the MVS stuff. It's man, I can't start MVS. But the Niners going into Miami to take on the Dolphins, and over right now is 44.5. Bless you. Or if that was a cough, I don't know. Did you get that oil of oregano?
Oh man, it's got some Robitussin.
boy. Okay. Niners pretty much a pick 'em right now. It's -1.5 Niners. Both of these teams on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs, the loser definitely out of it. So basic elimination game today for both squads because loser is pretty much out of their conference playoff chase. I'll say this. I mean, Miami has just been a team that has given us some nice offensive, weaponry when it comes to these, pieces on their team. I tell you though, they just did not look good against Houston though. Houston shut their asses down last week with Tua throwing 3 interceptions and their lack of running the football because of his offensive line. Now they get the Niners. Niners going on the road. But I think with the Niners, like they're hurt injury wise. We have, obviously no McCaffrey, no freaking, Ayuk, but you have Kittle, you have Jennings, you have Debo. If you ever want to use Debo, that'd be nice. But I don't get it. Just the Niners to me, both of these teams are just. There's a reason why this is like pretty much a pick 'em because it's like this game could literally go either way. I guess I have. I guess I'll take the Niners. I was literally about to say Miami, but I guess I'll take the Niners. I gotta find. Is Trent Williams playing this game?
Looks like he
Bosa
is
playing this game.
Bosa's questionable. Trent Williams is out.
Yeah, missed his 5th straight game today, and that's still big. But Bosa's playing. You said?
Questionable.
Jesus, yo. Oh boy, that's another reason why those two guys have been staples for this team since they've been relevant for the last like 6 years. Like both of those guys, like, So I mean, look, I guess I'll take the Niners because the better quarterback so far is Brock Purdy, in my opinion. Miami's played better defensively. I guess just give me the Niners because it's just I hate Miami. So that's tiebreaker. That's tiebreaker.
Great, that's a good enough reason for me to take the Dolphins. Just because, like, you mentioned, like, right, like they have a lot
I can't
of things.
stand you sometimes.
I know. I'm such a nice guy, though. That's the bad part about it. This is just my only platform to be a complete jerk sometimes. Wow. No, man. I'll take the Dolphins, man, just because, like, I think one of the guys you called out, I think has an opportunity today. Mr. Malik Washington, when you think about from a DFS side of things. So I give flowers when
it took him 16 weeks, but
I give flowers when it's appropriate. So yeah, I think Malik Washington, I like him. On the DFS side of things, I think obviously he's going to get some run today because no Jalen Waddle. Jonnu Smith has emerged as the tight end 1 of the world, pretty much, which was on no one's card. So I think, like, obviously, if you have the opportunity to play him in DFS, obviously you go ahead and do that. And like, it doesn't have to be like a long, drawn out conversation, but like, I think, like, are we approaching the backside of Tyreek Hill's career? Are we approaching it? Are we here now?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know either.
I'm not
ready to write him off either. But like, man, like, you would think
that'd be a fast way for him to go tier down. I'm not ready to say that.
They always say, man, one of the first things to go is speed, and like he's not.
That's true too.
He's not getting away from people the way that he's still fast. Don't get it twisted, but like he's not getting away from people like he has in the past. So, and then like I just think like the other reason why, man, like I just like the Dolphins, like for real, is just like the Dolphins sometimes they just don't play well. Like they just don't play well. The Niners have been finding ways to lose games. And I think that's the difference for me. It's like, I think that's the difference. Is like the Niners can play good for 3 quarters or play like they looked like game busters in the first half of that Thursday night football game. And then all of a sudden it just went off the rails. And I think if there's a difference for me here, I think that's the difference for me is just like, and again, obviously, like injuries. And like you said, man, like the Dolphins have been playing good. And while everything you would think, like there's like two chalky pieces here, two players that could get you there, Patrick Taylor and Malik Washington on the DFS side of things. So I think this game is a little bit more intriguing for me, just looking at it through a DFS lens, and like especially like GPP and everything else, right? Like those are two players you can play that could potentially get you to unlock other players, as we've talked about. But those are two players for me. And then obviously, man, like your guy again, man, Devon Achane. If he's got you here at this point in time this year, that's great. He should come up big for you in this game. And then I'll say it one time, man. My man Jawan Jennings. Shout out UT. It's 425 games. I just hit it like with that one, man. But like he's been like at this point, man, like he is the number one wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. And I think, we're talking about, players that like I don't want to say are wise, but just have had really rough years, man. Debo and Tyreek, two guys that like if you have on your roster right now and you are still somehow playing, I have Tyreek and I'm still playing, but God bless, man, because like those two guys did not deliver in any capacity at all. Neither did Jalen Waddle either, man. He was a 3rd or 4th round pick. So like, yeah, man, I think the other part for me too is just like with what San Francisco does defensively, Jonnu Smith or Tyreek Hill, or it might be your guy, man, Malik Washington. Somebody from this Dolphins offense today is going to pop in the passing game just because of what they do with their safety. So if Tua can stay clean today, I think there's some hope for this Miami passing game.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the biggest thing, too, is just like this game is so down the middle. But I hear what you're saying. I just like the Niners defense. I think they'll be able to turn over Tua. Tua has just been – he's just looked at times just deer in the headlights out there, though.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me he doesn't have no Waddle now, which does open up the field more for short and intermediate targets. You'll have Jonathan Smith hopefully absorbing more of that. But I still would say I hear why you like Miami. I just don't like them, so I'm taking the Niners.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Sunday night football game should be a good one.
Yeah.
Bucks, Cowboys. Bucks 8-6 on the year. Pretty much need a win here to keep themselves up in the NFC South division crown for the playoffs. Cowboys 6-8, looking to keep their season and their mere hopes alive. They haven't officially been eliminated from the playoffs, but with this loss, they definitely would be. Overrun right now is 47.5. And the Bucks are getting 3.5 on the road. Cowboys have not looked good at home for the most part this year. And the Buccaneers coming into this one, like Baker Mayfield, these guys just able to, again, him and Mike Evans, man, just what more can I say about these guys? Just literally just slinging it. You know what I'm saying? Just slinging any chance they get here. Tampa Bay's offensive line versus the line of scrimmage for Dallas will be the story, I think, tonight. Because if Dallas's line can get to Baker a few times, just getting off his spot a little bit more, I think the Cowboys have an opportunity to win this game. Because last week, I know it was Carolina, but man, like Parsons was looking like Parsons for like the first time all year long.
Yeah.
And you saw that with they were just relentless. Getting other guys to get sacks as well, turnovers, like, just these are the Cowboys defense that we've been accustomed to seeing for like when they have Dak Prescott and this team is all well and good. Like, we know this defense can play. I guess my question will be if they step up here tonight. Mike McCarthy is still coaching for his job, so to speak, in a way, but it feels like the Cowboys are going to want to keep him around anyway for next year, but anything can happen with Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
I guess if the line was a few more points up, I would probably go with the Cowboys for the plus 3.5, but I'm gonna take the Bucks. I think they have too much to play for. They have more incentive to play right now than the Cowboys, which is pretty much on the outs. Cooper Rush starting at quarterback, has looked better last several weeks.
Yes, sir.
In terms of production, but I think give me Baker Mayfield because he's been playing way too hot of football all year long. And it's a spot where Dallas' defense is still metric-wise, based on season averages in the last 5 weeks, they still don't look like the defense of old because the back half for their secondary is still getting burnt. So I would say give me the Bucks, give me the points, and give me the over. I think it's gonna be it should be a back and forth game.
Yeah, I think I think the Bucks for sure should be a back and forth game, right? I know the Cowboys haven't played well at home, I know, but one of the places they actually have played well is on primetime island games. So I think this could go back and forth. So I'm not opposed to taking the over in this game because the Bucks have been giving it up for sure, and I think we've started to see Rico Dowdle. We talked about him last week, man. He's he's gonna win somebody a league championship, and maybe it's tonight here on this Sunday night game. But the other guy I want to call out as well, man, is your guy Jalen McMillan, FanDuel specifically that has the Sunday night games on the main slate. I have so much of this game right here because between Bucky Irving, Rashad White, Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, Rico Dowdle, CD Lamb, there's so many pieces here, and the Bucks players aren't overly priced on FanDuel either. So it's just a place that I'm getting to tonight with a lot of confidence, man, and feel really good about what's happening. Jalen McMillan, man, he's been on a hot streak the last 2 weeks, and I think you're seeing him fill that Chris Godwin role, which is what they had anticipated when they drafted him. Obviously, hoping he didn't have to fill that role this soon. No Cade Otton for the Bucks this week, so I think you'll see Rashad White, to kind of go back to our very first question of the show. I think you'll see him be involved a little bit more in the passing game today, just because they're down a receiving option. So, yeah, man, I like the Bucks, I like the points. I like the over. I think this is just going to be a really great game environment, and I think the Cowboys will be able to kind of keep it that by going back and forth and putting some points on the board. So I like that. And then it's as far as from an ownership perspective, like I said, Jalen McMillan, 5.8K on FanDuel, coming in at a whopping 2% owned. So I am taking all of Jalen that hey, I'm playing where the money's at. Green is for the money and gold is for the honeys. You know what I mean? So that's where my money's at. And I always have this thing, dude. If I win on props, then I'm playing my money on props. If I win on FanDuel, then I'm playing my money on FanDuel.
Where my money at right now?
Yeah, so that's just how I be.
I love it. That's funny. I don't blame you on that whatsoever. That makes sense. And then quickly, we'll talk about the Monday Night Football game, which doesn't have so much of impact based on what could happen. Really, in a way, I mean, if the Packers somehow get shocked in this matchup, maybe. But even then, Packers are 10-4 in the year. Saints 5-9. Saints, we know the story. Just a bunch of injury-ridden players on the squad. There was talk about maybe Chris Olave playing this game, but he's not playing this game. And then no Kamara because that groin injury they say is worse than ever they thought. Kendrick Miller potentially getting the start, or Jamal Williams, whoever. In that matchup for the Saints. Saints getting 14.5 on the road going to Lambeau Field in general. So 42.5 is the over under. Man, Josh Jacobs has looked like a freaking monster, man. And I'm so he was one of those guys I didn't necessarily miss on, but a guy that I definitely should have been getting more of because depending on the room you were in, he was going fourth round. So that's where for me, a guy that we should have been a little bit more on. But at the same time, we didn't anticipate Green Bay's shift in whole focus. Just like with the Eagles from the year prior, the Packers, they also have ran the ball a ton versus what they have done before. So a whole change of philosophy for this team. Green Bay still, Jordan Love still throws the ball, but it's just not at a high enough frequency. So, yeah. I mean, look, Green Bay should take this one. Again, the points, they probably should cover because it's Spencer Rattler starting at QB, and he just hasn't looked like a QB that we should be scared about or scared of. Green Bay's defense playing really well. They're playing really well. They're shutting everybody down. It feels like the last couple of weeks, and now they get a cupcake matchup on paper. So I think it is a cupcake matchup, but they've held last several weeks outside of Detroit game. This defense has looked really well. Only allowing, so they allowed 13 points against Seattle the week prior on Sunday Night Football. The week before that is Detroit. That was more of a shootout back and forth game. Miami 17 points, held San Francisco to 10 points, held Chicago to 19. And that's been since their bye week. So this Packers defense has been playing lights out football, like 7 sacks last week and 2 interceptions. Like, good Lord. Like, do it again. Do it again against the rookie. So, anything more to say about this game, really? Like, no,
nothing more to say about the game. I just want to just touch on the Josh Jacobs comment, man, because I just think the reason why that happened, man, is just like, I think there was definitely a room. I shouldn't say a room, but there's definitely a space that says like all these running backs that shifted teams. Like we almost kind of thought one of these guys is going to be a landmine, right? Like one of these guys is going to be a landmine. And like smart money says not Saquon. Smart money says not Derrick Henry. All right, Aaron Jones potentially, which is somebody I thought would be a landmine. And Josh Jacobs was somebody that I thought potentially could have been a landmine. And I think like in the back of our minds instinctively, like we all knew like he had been carrying the Raiders for so many years, but we were like, well, what if he's washed? And like, that's how it was. And like, he hasn't been, I mean, there was even a point in time in this year where I was like, yo, like you should just trade the guy. And like, obviously like, hey man, like, dead ass wrong. I did have him on one of my 15 teams. But like, yeah, he's absolutely been a stud this year. And I think he's going to be a menace. And dare we say the road to the Super Bowl goes through the NFC North.
I think that's totally possible. The possibility of that happening is definitely up there, but it comes down to to answer your question, I think it comes down to the Eagles. I think the Eagles and Packers. And just because I think the Eagles have proven that they are a more complete team, than the Lions and the Vikings. But not to say that you're not wrong about that. Because easily the Packers could run the table as well, even though they only host one playoff game. Or potentially they're on the road because they may not host a playoff game. So to correct myself, Green Bay would pretty much be on the road. Unless some big upset happens. So for the playoffs. So I mean the NFC North could run through. Detroit can end up running the table as well. Washington could beat the Eagles today, and then all of a sudden we're talking about a different story come Tuesday. Technically Monday, because we'll have to remind people about that. But in terms of this game, I mean, we won't too much to talk about. It's the Packers.
Just hit on the Josh. They're gonna run. I ain't got nothing else to say about it.
Yeah, that's pretty much that. What did I say? So that being said, that we got to the end of the game by game breakdowns, and now it's time to go over to the locks of the slate. We're going to talk about DFS lineups. We're going to talk about guys that we should be getting into our DFS lineups for hopefully win some change. Johnny, start us off here with your lock of the slate.
Cover boy, Bijan Robinson. I think the setting is there for him to smash today. Especially like when I'm looking at this from a DFS perspective, and obviously season long you're playing him, but I just think this is the setting for him. This is like what you drafted him for. This is it to get you to the chip. There's going to be somebody that's going to bring us the holiday ham, and I feel like it's going to be Bijan Robinson in this matchup, this dream matchup that he has against the Giants, for sure. And then the other guy, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you're playing on FanDuel, Jalen McMillan, just too cheap, not owned enough, been producing right in front of our very eyes. So yeah, Bijan is my guy on the main slates on FanDuel and on DraftKings for sure.
I like it. I like. Look, I don't know. I could be just off the deep end, could be off my rocker, whatever. I think Craig Reynolds is one of my locks for value. I just think that cold weather in Chicago today. Jared Goff hates playing in the cold. He doesn't do well in those moments. It's by average. And now we're looking at a team that, again, Jahmyr Gibbs can't get all this volume, right? He not to say he can't because he's well within his range to do so. I just think that because of what Dan Campbell loves to do, like he loves using 2 running backs. And we've seen countless times before where in these spots where David Montgomery has gone away, we've still seen other guys get some carries in this game. So I do like Craig Reynolds as a 4K DK play for value. And then surrounding with other things. I think another lock for me is Adam Thielen, 5,600. I just think like I told you, I expect 10 catches from today. It's gonna be one of those games where if Carolina's gonna have any chance to win this game, Adam Thielen's gotta have this stamp on it. And again, 34 years old, whatever, Carolina Panthers, but I do think 5,600 is just too cheap at receiver on a slate like this where some of the 6K guys you'll want to get up to, like Neighbors and Addison and Brian Thomas and some of these like Garrett Wilson's, the Cups, stuff like that. But if you're looking for someone that shouldn't have as much ownership, in my opinion, that'd be Adam Thielen. I think same thing with DeVonta Smith. He's not a lock for me, but he's someone on the same logic where a back and forth game could still be here. And with Marshawn Lattimore should be playing AJ Brown more one-on-one coverage, and that would leave DeVonta Smith a little bit more open, especially without your boy Dallas Goedert. I do think that DeVonta Smith could be a guy that could still be a useful person for your lineups. And then if we're going a little bit more high scale for lock, like you said, Bijan, amazing play. I do like Chase Brown now in a spot 7,700 against Cleveland, where we all know, Chase Brown can do it running wise, but also can get a ton of receiving work underneath and whatnot. So I definitely like that as more of a higher end like lock play. So the review, Craig Reynolds for the value, Adam Thielen for like the mid range, and then Chase Brown for like more of the higher tier going there. So was there anything else as far as lock goes, maybe value wise, stuff like that?
No, I just think like another angle like we talked about was the Chicago Bears.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen in the slot. I think that's just another good place, man. Like for me, for sure, that just really popped. And then we talked about it earlier, man. Cooper Kupp, another good place to go as well, man. Just kind of looking at some slot areas. And then outside of, like I said, Bijan as well, you also have James Conner, which I like him a lot today as well.
Makes sense. So yeah, I mean, look, that being said, we got the prop shop segment. 54% overall in the year after a 4-7 week in last week, and just it's a little bit rougher these days. Some of the players are just coming out performing. It's actually week 15, not 16. That was week 15 last week. We're on week 16. So but yeah, 100 out of 84 bets, 54%. So a little bit over 50%, which is, again, I'm not satisfied with, but it's a tough game sometimes. Predicting the future is a little tough.
Facts.
But I'll say this: top 3 plays for props today. I got Adam Thielen. Just talked about him. The matchup is definitely there, and the game script's definitely there, especially with no Xavier Legette. And it's pretty much him, Coker, maybe David Moore if he ends up playing today. I'm not sure if he is today because concussions are always a freaking thing. But he is playing. He is playing today though. So, but I don't expect him to be such a nuisance. So I'm still going to stick with Adam Thielen as one of the top plays. Bucky Irving over 62.5 rush yards as a top 3 play. Dallas Cowboys still in the bottom ranks of rushing yards allowed per game. And I'm still going to go with that. I think Tampa Bay is going to have an opportunity to keep the lead in this matchup, and it's going to lead to Bucky Irving consistently getting more carries. And then Keenan Allen, just talked about him, over 50.5 receiving yards, because we all know Caleb Williams and this Bears defense is going to be behind this contest. And when they are, Keelan Allen and also, DJ Moore is going to get targets, and Keelan Allen should get over to 50.5 pretty easily. To the 1 p.m. props we go. Going to have Aaron Rodgers over 240 passing yards. This is more just like a play on he's got to play for, like I said, he's playing for his career. He's not just playing for just this, the season anymore. The Jets are out of it, but he's playing for his career. He's playing for his next position, whether it be with the Jets or with somebody else. Just think that the Rams are still susceptible through the air as well. And in this matchup, the only way the Jets are going to be in this contest if Aaron Rodgers is chucking the football. Craig Reynolds, talked about him in the DFS lock of the slate. I'm going to go put my money where my mouth is and take him for the over 21.5 rush yards. Like I said before, the last time Gibbs and him were sharing the backfield, he's had at least, in the games that they were there, 10 carries and then also 14 carries. And he hit this line on both of those numbers. So I'm going to go with the history on this. Also going with the history of Detroit is going to potentially be leading in this contest a ton. So I'm definitely taking Craig Reynolds for the over 21.5 rush yards. Jalen Hurts, over 200 pass yards. Look, it's Washington, and it's a game where I think Barkley will definitely get there, but also I think Jalen Hurts, 220 passing yards the last time they played him. And I think this should lead to Jalen Hurts still being able to, get the ball to his playmakers, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. And, again, I think this is a spot where this could be a more of a competitive game. And if it is more of a back and forth game, Jalen Hurts is definitely going to get there on this line. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, talked about Keenan Allen earlier. DJ Moore, same thing. He's getting peppered with targets constantly. It's just about a matter of him getting a good chunk of yardage on these plays. He's been under this line a few times, but also has been over this line when he's had those games. He's had these nicer blow-up games and a game in which, again, Chicago should be trailing in this game. They should be throwing the football. So both of these guys should definitely be worked in when it comes to the overall setup of the game. Thielen, talked about earlier, 58.5 receiving yards. Njoku, his line just popped up on some books, so definitely watch what's going on. But Cleveland's a 10-point underdog. They have to get the ball out. Tillman's playing. Is Tillman playing today? I thought he was playing today.
No, he ain't playing.
He's not playing today? Oh, last time I checked, he was questionable. But at least Njoku is playing. So the 39.5 receiving yards still feels a little too light for a guy that should prolifically target the tight end in this matchup against Cleveland. Cincinnati. Cincinnati has been rough around the edges of stopping tight ends. So this should be the perfect matchup and an easy cash money prop hit right here. To the 4 p.m. props we go. Juwan Jennings, over 61.5 receiving yards. Miami has been better against receivers, but where's the Niners going to go with the football outside of Debo and Kittle? They got to go to Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings has been playing and proven to be Brandon Ayuk-esque of this offense right now. And I know he didn't have the best game against the Rams, but before that game, he's been killing it. So I expect Juwan Jennings to have a game today, in a game in which Niners, this is an elimination game for them today. Travis Etienne, rushing and receiving over 59.5 rushing receiving yards. This line's too low for a guy like Travis Etienne. He's been hitting this line back-to-back games. And I just think with the Jaguars, they don't have necessarily much to play for, but Travis Etienne still has something to prove. And I think in terms of this, you could go with the rush yards if you're a little bit more hesitant about the rushing receiving, but I think they're going to need him in both the rushing and the receiving game today because, look, outside Brian Thomas and then Brandon Strange, who we'll talk about in a minute and we'll segue into, they're going to need both of these guys today. So Strange, I'm taking both the catches and the receiving yards overs. These lines are just a little too low based on what the rapport we saw with Brandon Strange and Mac Jones alone from the week last week. So I'm definitely taking both of those lines as well, just based on what we saw before. We have Josh Allen over 33.5 rush yards. I expect early on to hopefully get this line in terms of the rush yards because Josh Allen is still a scrambling quarterback. New England can find him still blitzing. Patriots still play a ton of man coverage. So that means what? More potential options for the QB to run, and that's Josh Allen. So 33.5, pretty much on par. The line should be 40 in my opinion. So I'm just taking the plus EV value here when it comes to the 33.5 rush yards. Kenneth Walker over 47.5 rush yards. I have no idea what his workload is going to be. So this is kind of like a caution play. But in terms of him and Charbonnet, if you want to take Charbonnet, his line is 24.5 rush yards. But I took Kenneth Walker because I think they're going to look to give Kenneth Walker the ball, feed him. He is still the guy they believe in the most. And he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to get this line relatively pretty easily, especially if we expect the weather to be, impacting this game in general in Seattle. And then the last play, we have a Sunday Night Football play, which I already said, Bucky Irving. The Cowboys are bottom 5 for running back, for a plus matchup for EPA per drop back versus the run. And Bucky Irving has looked spectacular the last few weeks, doing the most with his carries. We all know him and Rashad White are going to get theirs, but Irving's still the lead back here. Got a question, and then Johnny, what do you got for us?
Just overall, man, like we're here. It is to get us to the promised land. Like, we've given you guys some game, man, the best we can today as far as, like, from a season-long perspective. Same thing from the prop side, DFS. Like, not a whole lot, man. Like, this is where it's at, man. We'll say it with a caveat. Like, if you believe in your heart of hearts to go in a different directions, by all means, for sure. Because there's no worse feeling than being here in the Final Four and not making the move that you thought. And that's pretty much it, man. We got some good 4:00 games to wrap gifts and possibly move some money on the DFS side of things, man.
Oh my goodness. And then we have one more question here. Blurpy is asking Ford, ETN, or Swift full PPR. I'm starting Bengals defense. Who are playing Ford? But I have the Colts D2. I guess I'm in. These are always interesting. When it comes to Ford, I think he's a solid play today. And then it goes, all these guys in a way are, because Swift could probably get there by the receiving work. Man,
I'm going Swift. That's who I'm going with Swift, and I'm playing the Bengals defense. Like, just because, like I said, like I don't trust DFN or Dorian Finley, UCLA, Bruin.
Robinson.
Yeah, whatever his name is. Don't trust him.
Whatever his name is.
Yeah, don't trust him. Like just don't. I don't. And I just think like this could potentially be a game where the Bengals just smother them out offensively and turn them into a one-dimensional team. And if that's the case, there's definitely an opportunity for turnovers. And I think DeAndre Swift, to the point we've been talking about, I think even like the head coach had said like they're looking at some different ways to get him involved in the passing game. So I feel like this could definitely be a really good spot for him based off of your options.
Dare I say I'm going with ETN? It's just a game where things should be a little bit more tighter in that game. And I like what you're saying about Swift. I don't think you're wrong about that. I do think though that where the opportunities to probably still score a touchdown is probably with the Jags situation versus Swift, who Roshan Johnson is playing today, but they also take Bigsby for ETN. Like, so I guess I could say go Swift too, but I'm just going to say ETN because I think that is where I think the volume could definitely get there. The usage could definitely finally get to a place where ETN was worthwhile. And then I am going to start. Oh gosh, yo. That Bengals defense is not to say they cannot do something because they're a 10-point favorite, but I would say just go with the Bengals. I like the Colts defense too, so that's not a problem. Going to Bears to me is not a hesitation because this game spells that they should be behind. All right, my guy.
All right, man.
I'll see you.
Yep.
What did I say? What did I say? So I don't think there's hesitation for the Bears at all. It's just more of the hesitation of playing them. I don't see it. It's more about this game spells that they're going to be behind. So it's not a problem of like playing these two guys because they should both get work and they should be in a game where if it ends up being back and forth as well, you don't want to miss out on one of these guys scoring a touchdown. And like I've said before, I do like Keelan Allen today from a props perspective, but also, starting your DFS, DFS or season long lineups, definitely like that as well. So definitely happy to help. If there's no more questions, we will get down to the final thoughts of the slate or just in general. I think it's been a great year in terms of me and Johnny. I can say that. Of all my season long leagues, I've made all the playoffs. Just sometimes there's certain guys I got bounced, certain teams I got bounced because of quarterfinals, but that's just because of luck. And sometimes that's what you need right now. You got to make your own luck is my final thoughts in general. but just make sure you are paying attention to the waiver wire last minute so you can pick up someone that we can overall use for our advantage when it comes to looking into the final week of the fantasy football season. So the next time you'll see us actually tomorrow night. Me and Johnny will be here 8 p.m. Eastern time for the week 17 waiver wire advice, the championship weekend of all championships weeks. So hopeful that some of you guys can get to the championships, just like me and Johnny can look to get there as well. And we can all help each other out here when it comes to the matchups, looking at certain data and statistics. We're on the air a little earlier because of the holiday season. So we will be here on Monday discussing start sits questions and anything that's coming up as well that we have data on as well. So again, it's been a great year. We look forward to keeping it going with a bang. And we look forward to helping you guys out tomorrow night. So be here tomorrow. Special start time, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. For Johnny, my name is Nick. I'm out. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.